This video goes out to Arafat for another makeover challenge that he sent me. So let me show you what he has done so far. Right, so this is the view here. Maybe I can just full screen it for you guys. So basically it's in storyboard mode, right? And it's going, Houston, we have a problem, right? So I'm guessing it's something to do with the Houston area in the United States. From here, I can see it's a Superstore data. In 2014, Superstore attracted an impressive 595 customers due to its diverse product line. By 2017, it had retained 687 customers due to its high quality products, excellent customer service, and industry-leading after-sales service. That actually sounds really cool, right? You should be a salesman. However, acquisition of new customers has fallen dramatically compared to 2014. What went wrong? So I'm guessing that's the question we're about to answer in this visualization. So what he's done here is looked at these two types of customers. So just from memory, knowing the customer information in the Superstore data, there are the first thing that they bought, and then if they came back and purchased other things after that day. So I'm guessing that's how he calculated it, right? And you can see here that at the beginning there was a lot more new customers, and that's kind of dwindled down, whereas the existing customers has grown much higher. So nothing crazy there. I mean, if I'm thinking of a typical, just a typical store, I mean, the new customers is either going to increase or decrease. It would be very unusual if new customers went all the way to zero, which means you're just not getting anyone new in, right? I suppose that can happen on very rare occasions, like something like a restaurant, super exclusive restaurant where you can only really cater to a certain amount of people, and it's, high rollers kind of thing. Same thing goes for maybe like hedge fund managers or something like that, where they're only taking investors who have a net worth of $100 million or something like that, like really, really small groups. But for a superstore or a shopping center, you're assuming you're always getting new customers just because more people are moving into the area. Now, one thing you can do in Tableau, and I wonder if I can zoom in a little bit, right, is I'm noticing here this is only by year, right? I personally would like to see a bit more granularity, right? Meaning a lot more points in the middle. And one way you can do this is if we zoom in here, right? If you hover over a date axis, you're going to see a minus and plus symbol come up. And this will let you control how granular it is on the fly, right? Which means if you're not the designer, you don't have to go back into design mode to see it. So if I go here, you'll be able to see that little plus. So if I click that plus, so you can see the granularity has changed. Now, one thing straight away I can see is that there's more to this story than from high to low. Because the thing is, when you go from year to year, you don't see any of those bumps in between. Okay, and sometimes that's important. So let's expand that again. So this is by quarter. Let's look at it by month. So you can see now I'm seeing cycles, right? Very important. And you can see that in 2014, yes, we had a big bump and it kind of reduced down. And in that 2018 period, if I go back the other way, it looks like we still have some customers. But now that I'm expanding it and we look at month, you can see it's almost to nothing. It's actually the number one here. So we're not actually getting any new customers. My feeling with that straight away is that's highly unlikely for shopping centers. If I was questioning this as a business professional, I'd be like, please double check your data, right? Because that seems suspicious. So either we're not collecting any new data on new customers, or there's some other factor. So that would be one of my questions straight away. Moving on to the next thing is looking at the product line versus the customers, right? Analysis of different categories showed that there was a direct relation to the number of products each category had to the number of I don't know if it had a direct relationship. Obviously, if you plot a scatter plot, it'll relate. But maybe in terms of relationship, maybe you're talking about more like correlation, maybe. Something to think about. And when I see charts like this, you could actually isolate this to just be that part. There's a setting if you select the axis to turn off the zero value. That way it doesn't have to start at zero. It can actually start from your lowest value. Just gives you a little bit better view. Again, in this one, further analysis found that the product lines and technology nominal growth. Okay, if we expand this again, let's see what's interesting. So this is now by year. All right, so we can see that technology and future are actually pretty close. And when I see something like this with the orange, this is actually a pretty good visualization. the orange has a higher impact on sales because it accounts for more. So that would be one thing I'd look into if I ever need to do analysis. This is just too much granularity. So I'll probably go back. Okay, so far so good. I probably wouldn't have so many capital letters. It's just it's a bit much. I would probably go with just, standard notation. The highlighting and the colors I like. But what I'm not kind of seeing is the relation from this one to this one to this one, like, telling a full story or kind of drilling down into something, right? Just as my review, right? We're all learning here. And then when I go into the deep dive, I can see that there's a lot more here. I can see there's like sort of like a color scale, which subcategory has the lowest product line. So with this, I mean, it's telling me what it is. Okay, business hat on. Why are you telling me that? Like, why is that important? So whenever I design, I always think about who am I designing this for and why am I telling them this? Why am I using up this space to tell them this? Is there something I want to say, let's discuss this, right? Same thing for this one. Do customers who buy products from all purchase, right? So again, distributions, you can see that there's 3 dots here are all profitable. So I'm guessing, all right, so these 3 are not profitable. So again, I guess it's the drill down of like, let's have a look at these 3, right? So, okay, no, it hasn't been set up yet, right? What I like to always see is, the drill down already ahead of time if I'm looking at it as a manager, right? Because I'm like, okay, report on what your findings are. If I'm looking at it as a fellow analyst, I want it broadly designed. And kind of what that means is I don't want it pre-filtered. I want you to walk me through the filtering process, show me your findings like in detail, right? So what he's asked me to do is go take the same data and do a makeover. So I was like, all right, let's do this. So I took the data and I built my own one, a little bit different, but we're really just doing this for fun to learn from each other, right? So here it is, my one, and I'll show you kind of how I did it. So what I did was I mapped all the sales across the country. The color coding in the back is the regions, you can see from here, right? And that's for like territory management. So at a high level as a manager, I can be like, which region needs the most help? Straight away, I can see that, look, if the circles is the number of customers, these middle ones are not really getting much visitation. So let's have a look at central and western region straight off the bat. And that's in my line of work, in my experience, that's kind of how it works with senior managers. They don't need to know the really, really detailed stuff. They just need to go, well, point me in the right direction of where we need to start looking. Okay. So I have, some comments here of just like, how many new customers, how many customers coming back, and saying that though return customers is great, there's been a significant reduction in acquiring new customers, right? And we can see that from this visualization here. New customers versus returning customers, similar to what Arafat had. So I pretty much just stole yours, bro. Because it was good. Like, I mean, why recreate the wheel? If there's a good visualization, just copy it. Like, what's the problem, right? So the question is, why are we not getting more? Again, when you look at it in terms of this visualization, the first question is like, that's crazy. Like that, I don't know if that's true. So the question arises of like, where did you get your data from? How good is it? Like, let's get more info on the data itself. Does it include information from a certain time? That's kind of how it works in real life, because a lot of the times the data just comes through an email from somebody. You don't know how they filter it, what they did with it. So there's kind of like quality checks you should do. Okay, so that's kind of like the first one I did. And then it kind of begs the question of, well, what is different about this area compared to the rest of the country? So I was like, all right, let me analyze their expense behavior, right? What are these guys spending money on and what are the rest of them spending money on? Okay, so then I built this visualization and it was kind of a fail, right? And I thought I'd leave it in here because sometimes, we start thinking about a question and the question was, can I figure out what actually got them to start purchasing at Superstore, right? What were the products that attracted them versus what are the products that have actually kept them coming back, right? And when I did it, it was kind of inconclusive and I couldn't really explain my visualization. Even though maybe numerically and mathematically it's correct, I can't explain it very well. Now, this is kind of a lesson of working in the professional sector where sometimes it's it's really tempting to be able to design a lot of things, right? Because you can. You got Tableau, you got the skills, and you can build all these wonderful visualizations. But if you can't explain it thoroughly, like you can't explain it clearly, it can actually be worse because they start asking questions about the data that you can't explain. You start to lose a bit of credibility because then they're like, well, if this is kind of in question, what about your other visualizations? Is there issues with those? So it can be detrimental to what you're trying to do. So my advice is, unless you can defend and stand up next to your data and explain every detail of how it kind of came to be and you trust it and it makes sense and you've done your research, then go present, right? Because then you can defend it. But if you can't, you're opening yourself up for attack. It's best not to present it, or at least to say, we're still doing the work and we're not getting anything conclusive yet. Or you can say, we've done some initial work, but the results don't look right. We'll get back to you. It's better not to present at all. So basically, I'm not even going to show this if I'm doing a presentation. So I'm like, all right, let me think about it somewhere else, because I can't really think about it this way. So then what I did was I did something like this, right? So I'm comparing this kind of inner region to the outer region. Okay, so looking at just this inner region, right, we're obviously not making a lot of sales in there. Well, then what's suffering in terms of sales? What product should we be selling, right? And that's probably what I should say here. What products should we be selling rather than what products are we already selling or something like that. So this blue, right, inside this data is the amount of profit that is in there by product. So each of these dots is a product. So this is the Lexmark monochrome laser printer. We've got the Zebra direct thermal transfer printer, and so on. You got some here and all the different products, right? Then I plotted the blue along a profit. So this individual one actually lost $3,400. Okay, whereas this one up here actually made a profit of $4,630. So I thought, okay, that's a good visualization. But if I'm looking at a category, I kind of want to see it as a group. So I did a dual axis to look at what is the total profit. Because, for example, if we're looking at this one, right? Yes, maybe you have a negative here, 694, but that can be offsetted by the positive profit, right? Whereas in this one's the exact opposite, where it's like maybe you have one or two that are a little bit profitable, but a lot of the other ones actually are not. So in terms of going, well, maybe these top 3 or 4, right? Or maybe not that whole thing, maybe just kind of that group there needs to be reconsidered. Maybe we shouldn't be stocking those, and we'll start stocking a lot more of these ones, right? Further questions would be, explain these outliers to me, why is it that these are so much more successful? Or what is it about this one that we're not doing correctly? Are they in the wrong location of the store? You can compare that type of product to this type of product. It could just be product placement. In shopping centers, depending on the season, the cycle of the year, they will place certain items in certain locations. For example, I know people do analysis where it's connected to the weather. So if the weather is reporting a certain temperature, right, there's going to be rain, then they will stock the umbrellas, the raincoats, maybe the medicine, like for cold and flu or whatever, a lot closer to the entrance maybe, or a lot where the impulse buy section is, right, when you're in the counter. Things like that. So this analysis isn't to say here's the be all and end all. It's supposed to start a conversation of, okay, what else do we need to know? What else do we need to figure out? What action can we take? And that's kind of your final thing. What action should we take based on the data we have? Now, sometimes you're not going to be able to get more data. Sometimes you can. So it's like you play it by ear. You work with the people you're with. You're rarely going to do this in isolation unless you run your own company and you're the one doing the Tableau. But if you're a professional like me, and you work in groups, then you need to balance and work with other people of like, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And lastly, you may not be the expert in this area. It could have just been someone recruited you and said, listen, we need to do this analysis, here's the data. But you weren't working for this company for the last 10 years. So you may not know a lot of the historical nuances of why machines are there. Right? So you got to keep working with people, get more data, get more information, and that kind of just goes in a cycle. Okay? So that's how I built it. If you want to know kind of any details of how I built it, things like dual access or maybe some of the KPI reports, not KPI, sorry, these dual access kind of visualization with the double bar, let me know. Anything you want to, like the overlaying pie charts with the region maps, that was pretty fun, right? Floating, any of that kind of stuff. Hit me up, leave a comment, let me know. And if you like this video, hit that like button. It will really help this channel, help me. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Arafat.